Macklin Greaves didn't go to med school for this. He was supposed to be in some cushy orbital clinic, sipping nutrient coffee while patching up rich ambassadors who tipped in rare gems. Instead, he was stuck in a reek-filled alien outpost, doing meat evaluations for the Intergalactic Correctional Reconditioning Unit, ICRU for short, but staff just called it the Butchery. He adjusted his collar as the datapad in his hand blinked red. Subject 69X, Untamable. Rejected all pacification protocols. Hostile. Sexually aggressive. Untrainable. Recommend Butchery. He sighed. Every report said the same thing, just with more bite marks. They brought her in bound with restraint foam, which she wore like loose glitter. Purple skin gleamed under the overhead lights, her white hair tangled with bits of restraint wire she'd apparently chewed through. She sat on the floor, tail twitching like she was either ready to pounce or nap, possibly both. Her lips curled into a grin that said, "I dare you." He cleared his throat. "Hello? I'm here to confirm your processing status." She licked her lips. Not threateningly, just slow. Deliberate. "Right. So it says here you bit 2 guards, broke your translator implant by swallowing it? And you keep climbing the walls?" She tilted her head. No reply. Just that same wild gaze and a low, purring hum. He tapped his tablet, pulled up her vitals. Heart rate elevated. Pheromones off the charts. Neural patterns? Spiking every time he spoke. "Fantastic," Mac muttered. "She's allergic to my voice." The Butchery checklist was gross. He skimmed it anyway. Emotional unresponsiveness, check. Aggression, check. Sexual disinhibition, well, depends who you ask. Willingness to accept pacification or mate bond. The girl stood up. 1 step. 2. Right into his personal space. "I didn't mean," Mac began, backing up. She sniffed his neck. Hummed again. Her breath was warm. "Oh no." Before he could react, she pounced. It wasn't an attack, not exactly. More like an assertive cuddle. She had him pinned to the exam table, purring like an industrial fan, arms around his neck. His datapad hit the floor with a ding and the AI chirped. "Subject 69X has engaged in voluntary proximity and unforced tactile interaction. Bonding threshold achieved. Initiating partner transfer protocol." "What?" Mac gasped. The girl nuzzled his throat. The computer chimed again. "Mate imprint confirmed. Ownership recorded. Reassignment of custody from ICRU to Field Medic Greaves, pending supervisor override." "Override? Override what? I didn't approve." The girl growled, not hostile, more like warning another animal away from her meal. The door slid open. A guard peeked in, saw Mac under the alien girl's embrace, and slowly backed out, whispering, "Not it." He sat in the observation bay afterward, reeking of alien scent, still trying to figure out what just happened. Across from him, 69X, now listed in the system as Rough, sat beside him, chewing on a pen cap and batting at the holographic menu like a bored cat. "Rough," he muttered. "Seriously?" She looked at him. Smirked. "You get that from your file name? You're making fun of me?" She mimicked a bark. He choked on his drink. The AI voice came back. "As bonding has been recognized, Subject Rough is now under your personal responsibility. Due to her previous aggression, she may require regular physical assurance to maintain compliance." Mac blinked. "What the hell does physical assurance mean?" Rough leaned over, bit his collar gently, and purred louder. He stared ahead. "This is how I die. Not from lasers or disease. From aggressive cuddling and a system that thinks I'm her boyfriend." The AI chimed again. "Reminder, failure to maintain bonded partner satisfaction may result in escalation." Rough climbed onto the bench beside him. She curled up with her tail across his lap, yawned, and whispered, "Good poke. Keep you?" "I didn't poke you," he hissed. She tapped his chest. "Inside talk. Human poke's different." "Oh, you mean that poke?" She nodded slowly, watching his reaction like a hunter tracking prey. He groaned. This is going on my permanent record, isn't it? Another ding from the pad. Record updated. Field Medic Greaves has successfully pacified Subject 69X. Relationship status, claimed. She rubbed her cheek against him. He didn't move. This wasn't medicine anymore. This was a cosmic HR nightmare wrapped in pheromones and claws. Max stared at the assignment transfer form like it had personally insulted him. Somehow, a low-grade tranquilizer and one accidental cuddle had made him the legal guardian of a half-feral alien with a libido that could power a freighter. Ruff sat across from him, chewing on the stylus and watching him with that ever-present glint of satisfaction, as if she'd won a prize at some interstellar lottery and he was it. The system now flagged him as her primary bond partner. Under Treaty 47 Beta, that gave him not only custodial rights but full liability. She broke something? His problem. She disrobed in public again? Also his problem. If she failed to be satisfied, whatever that meant, there could be consequences, ranging from fines to forced counseling. From the way Ruff kept eyeing his lap like it owed her rent, the consequences were probably already ticking. He tried reasoning with her. Look, Ruff, I don't know what kind of mating rituals your people have, but humans don't usually bond over sedation accidents and involuntary cuddling. She tilted her head. You warm. You scent nice. You make heart jump. That's not a romantic declaration. That's a medical emergency. Her eyes narrowed. You say not bond, but you smell like Claim. Because you won't stop licking me. She grinned. Claim smells strong. Female guards now hiss at me. I like. He didn't even know what that meant. And worse, she had already started acting like they were a unit. She followed him everywhere, cafeteria, showers, even into the diagnostic labs where she kept flipping all the bioscanners upside down because machines too quiet. He caught her once trying to nest under his desk, curled up in a ball with her tail wrapped around a first aid kit. And then came the teeth. Not biting. Brushing. With his toothbrush. Why are you doing that? He asked, stunned to find her grinning with foam dripping from her fangs. You touch this with mouth. She explained proudly. Now I touch. Now I know how your mouth moves. That's not how hygiene works. That's how bonding works. He was pretty sure she was just making that up. But no one would help him. The other staff just laughed, or worse, started taking bets on when he'd break and mount the beast, as one overly enthusiastic supply officer whispered loudly near the mess line. When he tried to get her reassigned, the system glitched out. Apparently, her imprint on him overrode any transfer protocols. Emotional synchronization reached critical threshold, the form said. Manual separation not advised. Severe trauma risk. The file even had a red tag labeled Do Not Interfere. Active may pair. He scrolled down and found the kicker, asterisk. Current satisfaction level, 62%. Progressing. Asterisk. What does that mean? He muttered. Ruff walked past, tail flicking against his side. Means more poke needed. I haven't poked anyone. She leaned in close. You make me purr without touching. Human poke strong. I don't even know what that means. It means, she purred, dragging her claws gently down his sleeve. You make me melt inside brain. No male do that before. You rescue my mind. Now I rescue you. From what? He asked. She looked around and bared her teeth at a passing officer. From them. From alone. From cold. From not feel. He hesitated. For the first time, her tone wasn't playful. There was a beat of silence. Then she ruined it. And if not rescue you, who brings snack when you forget to eat? She tossed a ration bar at his face. He caught it barely. It was half-bitten. Thanks, he said dryly. I love second-hand nutrition. Bond food tastes better. That's not a thing. She tapped his comm badge. Now it is. He sighed. This was ridiculous. This wasn't love. This wasn't lust. It was somewhere between pet ownership and an interspecies HR violation. But every time he tried to file a complaint, Ruff gave him those wild eyes, softened just enough to make his pulse spike. It wasn't pheromones, he had checked. Twice. It was something worse. Genuine affection, from someone who didn't understand what boundaries were, but still, somehow, got him. Worse still, the computer pinged with a travel notice. Ruff had initiated a transfer request. Request for field relocation, approved. Unit Ruff and partner Greaves to be transferred to Outpost Theta for behavioral study. Mac read it again. You scheduled us for what? Study how poke bond works, she said. They watch us. Maybe give snacks. Maybe room with soft bed. You signed us up for public testing? They want to see if human can tame alien. You already tame. I am not, wait. I am not tamed. She reached over, tucked her head into his chest, and murmured, You stay. You sigh a lot. You accept my ration gifts. You don't run. He blinked. That's not taming. That's resignation. Same thing. In mating. Before he could reply, the alert chimed again. Prepare for departure. Outpost Theta awaiting subject pair. Intimacy observation suite assigned. Ruff stretched, yawned, and licked his cheek. Poke time soon? He looked straight ahead. I'm going to sue someone. I don't know who yet, but someone's getting sued. Outpost Theta looked like a cross between a science lab, a honeymoon suite, and a zoo for sentient species with too much curiosity and not enough shame. Mac stepped off the transport already exhausted, and he hadn't even unpacked. Behind him, Ruff strolled barefoot like she owned the place, tail flicking confidently, dragging her duffel bag with one hand and gripping his wrist with the other like she thought someone might steal him. The staff didn't help. They treated him like a legend. A few even whispered reverently, That's the human who tamed her. The Untamable. One researcher tried to shake his hand, until Ruff snarled low in her throat and puffed up like an offended jungle cat. No one approached after that. His welcome packet had Do Not Touch claim stamped across the front in glowing letters. The assigned suite wasn't much better. It had 2 beds, technically. One was 6 inches high, clearly meant for data collection, and the other was a reinforced nest pit lined with soft fabric and heat panels. Ruff immediately dragged him toward the pit like it was the most natural thing in the world. Nest good. Human rest here. Poke time optional. I don't need a nest, Mac grumbled. She blinked. Nest not for you. Nest for both. Bond heat works better with contact. That's not how bonding works. That's how spooning happens. She looked confused. Spooning is after poking. I learned that in video. He groaned. What video? Educational video. One you hid behind socks. Very loud. Very human. His face burned. She didn't drop the topic, of course. Instead, she asked questions. Too many. Why human females make that much noise? Why you say plumber when no pipes involved? Why female call male stepbro and then get stuck in machine? Please stop learning from those, he begged. But now I know what you like. You prefer loud. I don't. Okay. Those are not documentaries. She didn't seem to care. What she did care about was learning. And unfortunately, Mac was the only human within 10 parsecs. Which meant every mundane habit he had, Ruff latched onto like it was sacred ritual. Brushing teeth? She stood beside him, mimicked the entire motion, then tried flossing her tail. Eating? She copied his use of a fork, then tried using it on him. Showering? She asked if soap circles were some kind of pre-mating display. I spin because I'm rinsing, he explained. You spin when you're shy, she countered. Same thing. He eventually gave up arguing. What made it worse, and funnier, was that the researchers fed into it. Every time he corrected her, someone in a lab coat popped in to say, Actually, that's a fascinating adaptation. Or, that could be a new bonding ritual. Like they were writing an alien human Kama Sutra based on how many times Ruff licked his ear when she was sleepy. Mac tried to establish boundaries. He even drew a line down the nest with a pillow. Ruff just used it as an armrest while she draped herself over him and muttered something about smell zone sharing. Their daily reports were a joke. He submitted things like, subject attempted to eat conditioner again, or subject challenged mirror to a staring contest and won. Hers said things like, mate resisted mating again, sad but determined, or learned about sarcasm, now using it for seduction. One morning, he woke up to find her watching him sleep, tapping her claw against her lips. Dreaming makes you twitch. Your poking energy builds up while unconscious. Please don't call it that. But you do poke, she said. Just not with body. With looks. With voice. With care. He didn't respond. Not because she was wrong, but because he didn't want to admit she might be right. Somewhere in the chaos, the exhaustion, the bizarre alien customs, and the innuendo-riddled conversations, he'd grown used to her. Worse, he'd stopped trying to escape. He'd started to expect her silly questions, her ridiculous logic, the way she brought him half-chewed ration bars as tribute. She even washed his socks once, in her mouth. He didn't wear them again, but he appreciated the effort. And then came the moment that ruined his last shred of denial. They were in the debrief room, surrounded by researchers, as Ruff proudly declared she could now purr on command. When asked why she'd learned that, she answered, because it makes him soft. Inside. He hides it. But I feel it. The room went silent. Max stared down at the floor. She reached for his hand and held it, surprisingly gentle. He rescued me. Now I rescue him. From lonely. From quiet. From hiding heart. And just like that, the laughter stopped. Someone scribbled, emotional reciprocity, on a pad. Another whispered, cross-species attachment complete. But all Mac could do was nod once, like a man realizing he'd been caught in his own soft spot. Then Ruff leaned over and whispered, now I get reward poke? The entire room groaned. He sighed and muttered, one cuddle. Then we negotiate boundaries. She grinned wide. I allow that. You learning. Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't untamable either. The announcement blared overhead. All personnel, prepare for final evaluation. Subject Ruff and human partner Greaves to report to Central Chamber for Behavioral Confirmation Protocol. Mac rubbed his temples. He'd already given up trying to correct the phrasing. They called it an evaluation. He called it a live demonstration of how his personal space had been permanently deleted by a heat-seeking alien cuddle missile. Ruff was excited. Too excited. She braided her tail. She brought snacks. She preened like she was going on a date. They see us. They learn how we bond. Then we get reward, yes? What kind of reward? Mac asked cautiously. She smirked. Bigger nest. Maybe bath big enough to poke in. We are not poking in anything. She tapped her claw against her lips. You say that often. Then stare at me when I stretch. I stare because you're always half naked. Then you stare right. He gave up arguing. The chamber was massive, lined with scientists, ambassadors, and even 2 council members. The idea was simple. Observe how human compassion and alien emotional imprinting function in long-term pairings. To Mac, it felt like being an exhibit in a very weird zoo. The lead researcher leaned into a mic. Please engage in typical bonding behavior. Mac looked at Ruff. She looked at him. Then she jumped into his lap. The crowd murmured, fascinated. Why are you doing this? He hissed. Because when I do, your pulse increases. Bond confirmed. You're sitting on my ribcage. Human bones too soft. But I like sound they make. He tried to remain composed, but Ruff was practically performing. She nuzzled him, licked his cheek, sniffed his ear, then pulled out one of his socks from nowhere and held it up like a trophy. One of the council members asked, Does the human willingly participate in these rituals? Mac opened his mouth to respond, but Ruff beat him to it. He says no, but he stays. That is yes. Human no means maybe soon. I learned this from his morning face. The room collectively gasped at the depth of alien understanding. Mac tried to interrupt. That's not okay, that's out of context. Ruff purred. He needs slow bonding. I give slow. But sometimes he likes fast teasing. Like this. She reached behind him and squeezed his waist unexpectedly. Mac jerked forward. The crowd clapped. I'm not a performing animal, he muttered. But they like when you squirm, she whispered. Also, I like when you squirm. The evaluation continued with a series of absurd tests. Simultaneous snack sharing, she stole his bite, collaborative puzzle solving, she chewed the puzzle, and synchronized breathing, which somehow turned into chest-to-chest humming. But it was the last test that broke him. They were asked to complete a trust gesture. Ruff immediately reached behind him and placed her claws just under his ribs. If I wanted, I could tickle you to death. That's not a gesture of trust, he said flatly. But you let me touch soft spots, she purred. That means you trust. In my species, touching belly is like saying take me now. I don't want to say that. But your belly says it already. He looked up at the mirrored observation window and said with full conviction, I demand psychological compensation. The researcher scribbled something down. Subject demonstrates resilience through humor. Adaptive bonding confirmed. Ruff cuddled into him and whispered, Now we get reward. Ready? He froze. You mean the big bath, right? Yes, she purred. Or maybe, you let me ride you. He choked. Absolutely not. She cocked her head. I mean shoulder ride. For fun. Dirty brain. I'm surrounded by perverts. After the session, the lead counselor stepped forward. We have seen enough. It is clear that interspecies imprinting between human and unclassified Type X subject has achieved equilibrium. Ruff beamed. Mac groaned. The counselor continued. In recognition of this success, we hereby assign permanent diplomatic status to this pairing under Article 9 of the Human-Alien Emotional Treaty. A plaque was presented. It read asterisk. First official human claimed consort of a Type X untamable female. Asterisk. Max stared at it in silence. Ruff nudged him. You proud? I'm going to be a meme, he muttered. She sniffed him. Already are. Many clicks. Some remix your noises. He didn't ask. As they left the chamber, hand in claw, Ruff whispered. Still no poke? Still no. But later? Maybe. She purred, satisfied. From untamable to unstoppable, she'd claimed him. And somehow, without ever trying, he'd rescued her from more than the butchery. He'd rescued her from being alone. And she, in return, had dragged him into the weirdest, warmest, most intimate disaster he never knew he needed.